find that mentor that truly will motivate you, but also give you the best advice. And then also, as you progress in your career, become a mentor yourself.
Do you ever have so many questions and no one to ask, so they're just wasting away on Google searches you'll forget about in an hour or so?
We had that same problem, and that's why we created the RD2BE podcast, a resource for dietetic and nutrition students looking for answers that their peers don't have.
We are students Macy and Emily and registered dietitian Carl Barnes. We engage in conversations and learn from RDs.
Join us weekly as we gain insight into the unique journeys of registered dietitians all over the country.
Welcome back to another episode of the RD2BE podcast. This is where we bring you interviews with registered dietitians, specifically giving that perspective and advice to students coming up who are on their path to becoming dietitians. I'm your registered dietitian host, Carl Barnes, and very excited today with us is Lisa Abbay. She is a talent acquisition, I'm not going to go too much into it because I will use the wrong words, with Compass Group USA. We met several years ago, actually being involved with the academy, which I'm sure you'll go into a little bit, but it's always great to see a familiar face. So without further ado, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. And thank you, Emily and Macy. I will tell you, when I got the invite, I started thinking back how long ago Carl and I actually, happened to meet. And it was just by happenstance that I was auditing the House of Delegates meeting and Carl happened to be at the table that I was at. So, I'm going to talk a lot today about, those networking skills, but also, how do you meet somebody, that you may have never met? But like Carl said, I'm a talent acquisition manager. I did not go to school, of course, to be a talent acquisition manager. I'm a registered dietitian and spent many years, not only in clinical, but my last was in food service. And, I think what's so unique about all of us as registered dietitians is there are many paths that we can all take. And I hope to share some of that with you today. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for you to be with us. My name is Macy and I'm an RD2BE studying dietetics at the University of Maryland.
Hi, I'm Emily. I am an RD2BE and I also go to University of Maryland. So Lisa, I'm going to start with the first question. So how did your dietetic career begin?
I don't think my career was like a lot of people. I knew early on in high school, probably in middle school, that I really loved chemistry, loved math. And my career going to college was to be a chemical engineer. That was really what I wanted to be. I saw myself in that role. And, as we all get into college, we figure out that, you either are going to study a lot in a career that you decide to be in, or, you may have, where you're studying, but you're also going to have the social aspect. And I was more on the social side, still like to study, but also like to be on the social side. And one day sitting in the sorority house, a couple of us were talking, and, I was thinking about, okay, if I want to get into a, path that I may not have to study as much, but, maybe still be in chemistry, what could I do? And it's strange, but, talking to some friends around the table, there were, I don't know, about 4 of them, and they all said that they were in nutrition. And when I started questioning, are you taking chemistry? Are you taking math classes? What is the path? That's really how I landed there, was, just asking questions. But I will tell you, I had no idea what a nutrition professional did. I had no idea what a registered dietitian did. And I thought, you know what, this sounds like fun, something that, I may like to do. And that's really how it started. From that day forward, I think about those friends that were at that table. I've had a great career, as they have. And I just think about all the different opportunities that I've had, just having that simple conversation. I will tell you, I do miss chemistry. I do miss the fact that, you know, I'm not in it every day. And I think that's what led me to really want to be an engineer. But I will tell you, I love nutrition. I love dietetics, and I love being a registered dietitian.
Well, that's great to hear.
So you mentioned that you were in a sorority. Has that helped you with getting different opportunities in the dietetic field?
Yeah, you know, what's been great is, you know, it's really been, you know, connecting with those old friends, but also new friends as well. Strangely enough, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, did not mention that, but the sorority headquarters is right here in Memphis. And, you know, with that, I've been able to network with a lot of dietitians, but a lot of professionals that are in the healthcare world, just by being, you know, in the same sorority. So I would say yes, and I would say yes, it's been a great, I would say, group to lean back on and to, you know, ask questions of.
Thank you so much. Just to go back to your educational background, I know you got your MBA, so how would you describe that process for you?
Yeah, so you could probably tell I'm an older student. I, you know, finished my undergrad and my internship about 21 years ago. And, you know, getting into the world of nutrition and really understanding where my strengths were, I really wanted to hone in on those business skills, but also those financial skills as well. My previous role was heavy into managing finances. And, you know, that's one thing that I really wanted to make sure that I had a good grasp on if I ever decided to go back into some type of role like that. You know, being out of school for a very long time and, you know, getting an MBA just recently, I graduated in August. It was a learning experience. I had definitely a learning curve because when I went to school, we had very few computers. I didn't get my first desktop computer until I was an intern in college. So it was very different than when I went to school, and I had to, you know, learn a few things. But what I will tell you is it was a great experience. It was something that I loved. It was hard. It was, you know, hard on not only myself, my family, my kids, but also it was rewarding at the end. And I'm so glad I did it.
And how has it been beneficial for you as an RD, if it has been, and when would it be beneficial for other RDs? Can you think of?
Yeah, so I think, you know, and just thinking to, you know, what I learned, you know, my MBA had a lot of marketing, a lot of finance. So I think about, you know, those dietitians that are in private practice or are wanting to start some sort of business, it would be very beneficial for them.
Awesome, that's great to hear about like how enriching, I guess, your MBA was. So I'll admit I did go over your LinkedIn profile just like to make sure I have all the right and good questions for you. So when I was looking on there, I saw that you originally started as like a regional clinical nutrition manager. So how does that job differ from what you do now? So I guess in the beginning you were more so dealing with nutrition and dietetics than I guess where you are now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like how has that journey with your careers changed over time?
Yeah, and I was thinking about that a little while ago about, you know, all the different careers that I've had and all the different paths that I've taken. And I think when I'm talking to students, but even dietitians today, you know, your career can really go in any way you want it to go. I think about, I started as a clinical dietitian back in 1999. It was a trauma center, and a physician assistant back then took me under his wing, and we were placing feeding tubes, you know, monitoring TPN, had a full nutrition support team. Then I think about, you know, I was in diabetes for a very long time. I loved every aspect of that. And then I transitioned over to clinical manager, but also a regional clinical manager, where I was overseeing many dietitians and giving them guidance, you know, on maybe what are the new things coming out for charting? What are the new codes? Maybe, what are the policies and procedures that we should be following, or what are CMS or Joint Commission looking for? I spent many years doing that, and then really fell in love with food service. And, what's interesting is all of those roles prepared me for where I am today. And when I think about every single role, and I think about what I do, in recruiting and talent acquisition, if I had not had those roles, I would not understand where people like yourself would be, maybe applying for the first time, or, maybe applying for their 5th job, maybe they're a mid-career dietitian. So I really can have that empathy for what type of job they will be doing, but also give them some guidance on what to expect.
So you mentioned that now you're a talent acquisition recruiter, correct? So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so when I transitioned over from food service into talent acquisition, I started as a recruiter. I was recruiting dietitians, recruiting food service professionals. And then about a year into it, I moved into becoming a manager. That's what I am now. I have 10 recruiters all over the country, and we are, and I took some notes because I think it's helpful for people to understand really what I do on a day-to-day basis. We're talking a lot. We're finding out about you as an individual, but we're finding out what the hiring manager is wanting as well. We're reviewing a ton of resumes, and I think that's, where, if someone had a question about a resume, we're able to, have the good and the bad and explain what those are. We're interviewing candidates. Right now, I'm working on a lot of strategic projects, not only for our team, but for the larger TA team as well. And then we're always reviewing best practices. And then like yourself, I'm looking on LinkedIn and finding those great candidates, but also using other platforms as well. And then we're also researching new products. What is out there? And I think about right now, artificial intelligence. What is out there in the world of AI and recruiting, and how can we intertwine those two? So we're doing a lot of, not only talking to people like yourself, but we're also, finding people, and we're also, researching what those new products are. And then, we as dietitians, we can't help but keep up on our nutrition information. So I'm always reading journals, always, seeing what the new best practice may be for TPN tube feeding, even though I haven't done that in years.
So for your recruiting job, do you happen to recruit any registered dietitians?
We do. We recruit a lot of dietitians. Mm-hmm. We recruit clinical dietitians, NICU dietitians, diabetes, dietitians that may go in diabetes programs, outpatient dietitians. We really recruit a lot of dietitians. And then those dietitians that are interested in food service roles will, recruit those as well.
So you mentioned that you look over resumes. So when you're looking to hire an RD, what are some positives and negatives that you look for on resumes that make someone a good candidate?
Yep. So, I think it's always great, when we're looking at resumes to make sure that, our credential is on there. I will say that's the one thing that I still see dietitians where they may put, they may put their name at the top, and then they may put, their credential at the very bottom. We need to be proud of that credential, and we need to make sure that we are letting people know that we are an RD. Because someone that may not be a dietitian like myself that is recruiting may not, may see that Lisa Abbay, she sends a resume in, and may not know to look at the bottom for the credential. So I would say that's, number one that, we always see. And then some other good things that, I like is when interns, so like yourself and Macy, are ready to get into the real world, we like to see, what experience do you have as an intern? Is it all clinical? Is it a mix? How many hours did you spend in it? Really give some good information on your resume, and, maybe not just put, University of X, 1,200 hours, detail out what that is. And I would say that's really, really great for all those that are interns, but you may be a new grad as well. You may be 2 years out of school, so I recommend that as well.
So you also mentioned that you look through LinkedIn profiles. So what aspects of a LinkedIn profile stands out the most to you, and what do you really disregard?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of presentations that I do for not only interns, but, registered dietitians as well, make sure that profile picture is professional. Make sure you're not Lisa Abbay with her 2 dogs, or Lisa Abbay with all of her friends. Make sure it's Lisa Abbay, and make sure it's on a, very mute background. So make sure there's not a lot of background. I will tell you that's number one. And, not that, we're hiring over your picture, but you definitely want to have a professional presence when you are out there on social media. I also like to see, maybe what some volunteer experience you've done, what's some jobs that you've had. Again, just like your resume, you can spell out what that internship as well, that you did 400 hours in community and 200 hours in food service, whatever it may be. But make sure it is thorough. Make sure that it has the content in there that someone will want to say, wow, that's someone I want to contact about a job in Maryland. And, it does not have to be the same. I always stress that. You are going to probably provide a little bit more detail on your resume than you would on LinkedIn, but definitely it can be the same. And if it's the same, that's great, because recruiters are out there every single day, and they are searching LinkedIn for people like yourself and others within the community.
Thank you so much. So going back, you said that there's a lot of different RDs that you hire. So what are the, overall different responsibilities? Like, how do you distinguish food service, RD versus clinical, and different fields in those?
Yeah, so what we have is Compass Group has a lot of different organizations that we do business with. So, I'll think about the Memphis market. We have healthcare, we have senior living, we have sports and leisure, we have business and industry. There's a lot of different places that dietitians can be placed. So I think about a healthcare, we're looking for someone that has that clinical experience, someone that is driving to be a clinical, maybe it's a cardiac dietitian, or maybe it's an ICU dietitian, but we're looking for someone with that experience. On the other hand, we may have a business that's looking for a wellness manager, and the wellness manager or dietitian may be providing, nutritional information to the employees that are at that account. They may be providing what we call chef's tables. They may also be providing just general information to those employees. So it could be a wide variety. And I think that's what's so wonderful about being a dietitian. It's not to say that when you get out of school, you have to go into clinical nutrition. There's so many different, I call them spokes on the wheels, where you can take that wheel and you can make different spokes on that wheel as a registered dietitian.
That's encouraging to hear that there are so many different areas that you can go into within our degree. So what are some of your daily, weekly, and monthly goals that you have in your job?
So I was like, okay, I got to be prepared for this one. So, and anyone will tell you this that is in talent acquisition or talent and development or HR, your day-to-day is going to be very different every single day. It is definitely not the same. So I think about being a clinical dietitian. You know, it's definitely not going to be the same, but you're definitely going to have the same routines. You're going to screen your patients. You're going to see your high-risk patients. You're going to do education. You're going to do the things that you have to do on a daily basis. And again, it's going to be different patients. But when I think about recruiting and talent acquisition, there is nothing that is the same. I may be working on a dietitian role today. I may be working on a executive vice president role tomorrow. I may not work on any roles today because I may have a project that I need to do. So daily goals truly are going to change day to day. You know, as dietitians, I think we all have our little checklist and we like to check off. And I think that's just, you know, every dietitian is like that. So I definitely have my things that I need to get done daily, but, you know, it's definitely not the same every single day. Weekly, more than likely it is, you know, contacting the hiring managers, making sure that they're informed on their candidates, and then also working on projects. And then I think about monthly. Monthly truly is going to vary, but what is so great about it is, you know, we have deadlines just like everybody else, but we can plan those deadlines throughout the day. You know, we may call all of our candidates in the morning and then work on our projects in the afternoon, or we may work on our projects in the morning and call all the candidates in the afternoon, depending on, you know, what the day is. So I will tell you, in talent acquisition, we are, the day is never the same, the week is never the same, and the month is never the same either.
Just out of curiosity, what does your office space look like? Are you with a lot of people around you? Do you have an office space? Are you just all over the place?
This is my office. I home office, and you know, when I was in food service, you know, I was a regional director. My role prior to this was a regional director, and I would go from account to account, and I traveled quite a bit. Never really had an office per se. Now I have a home office, and I have been home officing now for 6 years. And I think the funny thing, you know, I've talked to a lot of friends that have, you know, since COVID have moved home and now they're home officing. And they're like, oh my gosh, what has been the challenge? And I'm like, you know, the challenge has been that when COVID first hit, I've been at home for 5 years by myself. You know, it may be that my kids have a day off like today, but I was home all the time by myself. So I could, you know, come and go as I wanted to, really not, you know, worry about the door being closed. When COVID hit, my husband was home and my 2 kids were home. And I will tell you, it threw me for a loop because I had to get used to people being home. And, you know, people knocking on my door, you know, can you talk, or can you help me with this? So, you know, it's been a joy to work from home. You know, I'm blessed to have a home office, but, you know, it's been great, and it's been great throughout this pandemic as well.
So you've gotten over the challenge of COVID. So what have your biggest challenges been since undergrad up until where you are now?
You know, I wouldn't say, you know, and, you know, a lot of people will say that they've had many challenges throughout their career. I think the great thing is when you have great bosses that encourage you to, you know, take a leap of faith, or, you know, maybe when you think, oh no, you know, there's no way that I could do that role. When you have a boss that is, you know, cheering you on, saying, no, you can do it, there's really not a challenge. You know, and I think if a lot of people do not have those bosses that are encouraging, that are, you know, ready to say, okay, I'm ready for you to take the next step, or, you know, when I move on, you're going to replace me, then, you know, you may have to rethink it. Because I will share, you know, have there been challenges? Of course. And have I gone home from work many days frustrated? Of course. But there really has not been any challenge to either, you know, make a decision or to say, I'm going to take that next step, you know, in my career. So I just say, you know, be strong, have a boss that encourages you, and, you know, reach out to somebody if you ever have questions.
Okay, I'll just follow that up with, how did you exactly take the next step in each of your, you know, jobs? How did you move up to a manager level? How did that process go?
Yeah, I think it was all organic. It really was not, you know, okay, I want to be a manager, or I want to be a food service director, or I want to be a regional director. I really think it was, you know, I was always ready to, you know, take on those extra projects. And, you know, I had someone say to me not too long ago, you know, I really don't know how you keep it all straight and you do everything that you do, because you're always so busy. And, you know, I think when you show that initiative and you show people that, you know, okay, I can do my job, but I can also do something that may not be within my job. When that position opens up, or let's say, you know, someone leaves and that position opens up, they're going to say, oh, you know, so-and-so is ready for that job. And they'll come and tap you on the shoulder. So again, I don't think it was anything to prepare for. It was just more organic, wanting to always learn more and wanting to always, you know, have those extra projects.
How do you think your MBA helped with being able to get more job opportunities, or do you think it helped like enhance by like having a higher degree?
Yep. So I did not share with this. I am a CDR commissioner, and, you know, when, you know, I'm talking amongst my peers, you know, that have higher level educations, it's always been a goal of mine to have my master's. You know, when I talk to students all the time, I tell them, don't do what I did. I left my internship with probably 9 hours left to take to get my master's, and I never completed it. So don't do that. But I always look back and said, you know, I definitely want to get it. And I, you know, started from scratch. I had to, you know, start and take all those classes again. But I, you know, I don't ever see myself leaving Compass Group or leaving my job that I'm in. What I think it's helped me with is really, you know, when someone comes to me with a concern or something they need to, you know, work out a timeline, it's really helped me identify what needs to be corrected, how we're going to correct it, and how we're going to solve the problem. It's really helped me with that. And I had a lot of that, but I think it's really given me the stepping stones to really not only help myself, but then help my peers as well.
So I forgot to ask this earlier for some reason, but where did you do your undergrad and your internship?
Okay, so I didn't share this either. I am a Navy brat, so I moved all over the world, was born in Hawaii, lived in Japan, and lived in Virginia Beach. And I was in 7th grade, and my parents came to me and said, Dad has been stationed in Meridian, Mississippi. And I said, well, where is Mississippi? You know, because I was living in Virginia Beach. And so we moved to Meridian, Mississippi. And strangely enough, my dad's from Jackson, Mississippi. My mom is from Memphis. So it was like going back home. So was there. My dad retired when I was in high school, and then went to Mississippi State University, which is right up the road from Meridian. I actually did my undergrad there and was thankful enough to do my internship there as well. I just completed my MBA from University of Memphis, and it was a wonderful program. It was a little, I would say, a hybrid type model. Most of it was online, but I did some classes in person as well.
So when you were looking to apply for internships, what other programs did you look at, and what did you factor in when you were choosing where to go?
So don't do what I did either when it comes to this. So my husband and I, we've been married now for, 21 years. And 21 and a half years ago, he was moving to Florida and I was applying for internships. And I'm like, where am I going to go? I only applied to Miss V State, but Miss V State at the time had 3 programs. They had a part-time, a full-time, which is what I did, and a master's program. So, don't do what I did, because I took my chance on saying I'm just going to stay in Starkville, Mississippi, and I'm not going to, branch out. I tell students now, if you are, able to move somewhere, if you have no attachments, you can go anywhere, apply to as many as you can. It is competitive. We all know that. It was competitive when I was doing my internship. I'm sure when Carl did his. So apply to where you can go. A friend was applying to internships and she said, well, I can go to LA. I've got family there. I said, perfect, apply to LA. But, I call it pigeonhole. Don't pigeonhole yourself, into one location, and, apply to a couple or as many as you can, but don't listen to what I did.
So with that in mind, what knowledge, skills, and experience do you wish you had before becoming an RD or a recruiter?
Yeah. So when I saw that question, I actually had to, think about it, because I thought, what in the world would I want a student to know, or, someone that this may be their second career. What we don't learn, and, a lot of dietitians still don't know, is how to negotiate. So, and a negotiation can be for anything. It can be, writing an order for a physician, and, how are you going to stand up and negotiate with that physician so they listen to you? I think about, when I was in my regional director role, I was negotiating contracts for hospitals with CEOs. So how do you negotiate that better? And then I think now as a talent acquisition manager, how do I, negotiate and, make sure that, we're looking at everything for the role with that hiring manager. We're not just saying, we're going to hire someone, like Lisa Abbay, and Lisa Abbay just left, so we want someone like that. How can we think outside the box and really negotiate and get those skills on the table? So if it could be one thing, I would say learn how to negotiate. And if you don't, learn that in your undergrad or internship or master's, there's many, many different programs out there that, are available and you can take for free.
So how do you think negotiation plays a role in such a female-dominant job or workforce? Or do you think it has no role in negotiation?
No, I think it does. And those examples that I just gave, I think that's why I say, not that men are, more easy to negotiate with, but it is definitely something that men learn early on, how to negotiate. Women, we do not have to negotiate usually, in the family. Even as a child, we don't have to negotiate. So again, it could be any of those skills, negotiating with a physician, a pharmacist. I can remember when I started a nutrition support team here in Memphis, I was negotiating almost every day with the pharmacist on, well, I don't know that I agree with that. And then, they would come back and say, well, what are your thoughts? So I really think it's, every facet of being a dietitian, and whether you're male or female, you're going to need it as well.
So just to follow up on everything that we've talked about, how can an RD2BE get ahead of the game while still in undergrad? What advice would you give?
Yeah, so this really it's a 3-part series, and I talk about these 3 things all the time, and I'll give examples. So one is network. one is find a mentor or be a mentor, and then give back as a registered dietitian. You know, be a preceptor, get involved. I'll use the example of networking, and I think this is powerful to show you that it really, you know, it can be across all states. When I was living in Florida, my husband and I were newly married. We were deciding to move back. And I called my mother-in-law and I said, and my mother-in-law lives here. And I said, do you know any dietitians that, you know, live in Memphis that I could talk to? Because I had 2 job offers. And I said, I really just want to, you know, get their input on, you know, where I should start, what I should do, and, you know, maybe where I would be a good fit. And my mother-in-law said, yep, call this person. And lo and behold, I've been friends with her for 20 plus years. She was an Academy board member. She is a lawyer and a dietitian. And, you know, I've leaned on her for many different things. But again, it's networking. I didn't know that my mother-in-law would connect me with her, but it is truly networking. Network from the day you become a dietitian, or I even say a student, to the day, you know, that you may not want to be involved anymore. And then finding a mentor. I did a mentoring program about 15 years ago, before mentoring was really, you know, a thing. And, you know, what I always encourage students and dietitians, and even dietitians that are, you know, later in their career, is find a mentor that is not in your current workspace. So a boss, a peer that you may work with day to day. Find someone that you can really lean on. Find someone that you can call with questions. You can bounce ideas off of. When your boss makes you mad, you can have that discussion. Well, you're not going to believe what happened today. Find that mentor that truly will motivate you, but also give you the best advice. And then also, as you progress in your career, become a mentor yourself. I mentor many different people, and I have throughout my career. And what's great is it's great to see people really start to either have a career or elevate in their career just from being mentored. So again, you know, networking, find a mentor, and then get involved early. I cannot stress those 3 things for RDs to be, to really make sure that they take that time to do those things.
So for networking, how can you do that organically with a lot of different people?
Yeah, you know, I think early on, you know, as an RD2BE, I really think it starts at your local level. And, you know, I always tell students, you know, if you're going to your first dietetic meeting, you know, call me, text me. I'm happy to go with you, you know, if they live here in Memphis. And, you know, I think also, you know, virtually, you know, now it's a little difficult to, you know, maybe network as easily as we could in the past. But, you know, I get requests all the time to say, hey, can I, you know, talk to you about your MBA program? Or, hey, can I talk to you about recruiting? I think that's also a part of networking that we forget about when we're reaching out to someone that may have the same interests, but also, you know, we're gaining advice from. So now today, it's probably more than ever that we continue to stay connected and we network with people. Doesn't have to be daily, but we continue to network and we continue to, you know, provide information to people.
Thank you so much. Emily, do you have any other follow-up questions?
Yeah, I just have one quick one. So you talked a lot about networking, but is there any additional advice that you would want to give undergraduate students or students in their dietetic internships, or even people that are going to potentially be sending you a resume? So what kind of advice do you have for those individuals?
Yeah, so I wrote down, let's see, this is about 9 attributes that, you know, I would say as a new RD or even as an experienced RD, really what dietitians need to have. And I think, you know, they're all self-describable, but I think they're all great because I think it's, you know, something that we need to make sure we're paying attention. Number 1, be honest, be eager, have a positive attitude, always be a self-starter. I think, you know, when you look at, you know, internship or internship rotations, you know, are you asking the preceptors for, you know, additional information, or, hey, where can I find, you know, an article about this? Always be that self-starter. Strong work ethic, detail-oriented. I think all dietitians are detail-oriented, but very few are not. So make sure you're detail-oriented if you're not. Make sure you're knowledgeable. You know, you don't have to know everything, but if you get asked a question, where are you going to find that answer? Be a great communicator. You know, always smile, even if you can't see the person. I think that is, you know, it comes across on the phone, whether you're energetic and you have a great personality about yourself. And then the last, I think this is, you know, more than ever, we have to be adaptable. You know, a lot of people are not adaptable and cannot change, you know, from one day to the next. Especially with COVID, we want to make sure that, you know, anyone can be adaptable, because, you know, what we have seen through this whole thing is no day is ever the same. Things are always ever changing. Guidelines are ever changing, but you have to be adaptable and you have to be ready to change. Even if your boss says, we're not going to do X today, but we're going to do Y tomorrow, you have to be ready and, be ready to step up. So I think for all of those things there, you know, you don't have to really be a rocket scientist to figure all those out. But again, we want to make sure when we're looking for dietitians and we're looking for interns that, you know, you have most of those qualities, you know, set amongst yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Carl?
So much great stuff. I appreciate it, Lisa. I think there's going to be a lot of students that are going to be bookmarking this and rewinding it back through various parts of their career, because even for dietitians, this is really relevant and great stuff. And I'm really glad you hit on mentorship, because that's one of the core things we're doing within the RD2BE. So for those listening, dietitians, and we, like you said, there's really no right or wrong time. So we've got brand new dietitians, they still have value to give back to students. Really, at any point in your career, there's somebody that you have info for. So again, thank you for being here. For all the students or RDs listening, you can always catch up with us at the website, rd2be.com. And then the final plug, we actually have a really cool thing now. So this is more so for the RD2Bs. You can text direct to 202-918-3818, and that's going to be the fastest way to get maybe your questions in on these podcasts and get some up-to-date information. So again, thank you so much for being here with us, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Yeah. My pleasure. Thanks again for having me. I will tell everyone, you know, anyone that's watching this, if you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free to. I am happy to answer any questions and, you know, make sure that everyone feels like they're set up for success.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you coming in and talking to us.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Yeah, my pleasure.